June 25th at 7:30 p.m. Ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week. They confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things that both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on Sport.
Hour number 2 now officially underway. It is the Early Line. It is a Wednesday. It is a hump day here. And it's a shame that, we say goodbye to one league, which is the NHL. We'll see them next fall at this point. And Stanley Cup championships have been awarded, and the Florida Panthers have won back-to-back. The anticipation of a possible game number 7 was there, but again, the better team certainly last night was the Florida Panthers. That series ended at 6. Another series coming up in the NBA's championship round is in its game number 6. The question is going to be, can Indiana win that basketball game and force a game number 7 in OKC? The vibes will be high. I know we're rooting for that here. But, Joe, there are a lot of questions here in the NBA Finals that we're now having to start to answer. You know what's great to talk about? Hey, I know exactly who the starting lineup's going to be. We know exactly how this game flow is probably going to go outside of, oh, no, we now have to worry about injuries here. Shams Charania yesterday tweeted out, Indiana Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton is believed to have suffered a strained right calf and will undergo an MRI to determine the severity of the strain, sources tell ESPN. Talk to me about this injury and the question marks that we now have on one of the better players on the Pacers.
Yeah, well, it's not a great injury. Calves are never great injuries because the only thing that can really help it and heal it, Donnie, is rest. And
yes.
So the question is, do we, calf injuries also lead into Achilles injuries, which is not a great situation. So I think the MRI, they're trying to rule it out and see exactly just how close are they to this being not great. So it wouldn't shock me if he goes. But if he doesn't go, Donnie, I also don't think that means it's the end of the Indiana Pacers. I still think they're more than capable of winning a game at home without Halliburton on the court. It's not like he played every game this year. They've done this before.
Now, also understand this, we'll know the severity of the injury when you get an MRI, but most people, when they hear MRI, it's oh my goodness, worst case scenario, which sometimes can be the case. Hey, I just saw you hurt your knee in an NFL game. You're getting an MRI scheduled for tomorrow. Oh no, did he blow it out? Was it the ACL? It's going to be a meniscus. But the fact that it's a calf injury, they're going to give you the MRI regardless here. So even if you say after the game, hey, my calf was a little bit sore, they'll just send you in for a quick MRI just to make sure it's nothing more than maybe a calf strain, which might you be able to play on, or or just a simple cramp at this point. But whenever I hear like soft tissue muscle injury and we got a game in 48 hours, it never works out well. And it wasn't as if we said, like, you know what? We watched him play in the last game. He was great, 26 points, even after he got injured. We're just waiting a couple days here so he can rest and recover and play in the next game. He was brutal in game number 5. So now the anticipation is, you know, he wants to play. He wants to be out there with his guys. This is the NBA Finals. There's no guarantee you can get back to this point. But the question, Joe, would be is, what's smarter for the franchise itself? Let me go out there and try to give it a go, knowing that I'm going to be an absolute defensive liability once again, and I can't get to the rim because now they know they can just sit at me at the three-point line. I won't be as effective. Talk to me about the Pacers entering into this game if Halliburton plays and he's not 100%.
Well, he was a liability. What did we say? It was minus 13 when he was on the court in that game, which it was better in the second half, given the fact that he was nearly minus 18 or 19 in the first half, where he was a huge liability. But, you know, he's more of a facilitator anyway, Donnie. He's not the leading scorer. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and chuck up a million shots to begin with. So, you got to believe that Rick Carlisle will look at this and say, you know, are there spots? Is he able to go? What's he able to do? If not, you know, listen, will a couple of days rest help him if there's a game 7? I think that's what the MRI was all about. What are we looking at here, and how close is this to being an absolute disaster for him if he gets out on the court?
Yeah, what most of the time we look at too, oh, no, calf injury is going to get an MRI, soft tissue. Like, again, regular season, Joe, we don't see this guy for 3 weeks at this point right now.
Correct.
NBA Finals, you might rush him back just to see what he has, because what's the worst case scenario? He injures it more and has 4 or 5 months off here to get ready for next season, and you know he's going to want to try to give that a go. But if we do re-rack the series here, and yes, we do know about the injury information here to Halliburton, maybe we'll get some more answers today. The Thunder, a minus 2,500 price here to win the NBA championship here. The Pacers now at a 12-1 price as they sit. And by the way, has this moved? Was the Pacers 9-1, or has it always been minus 2,500? Let's see if maybe Joe can pop in my ear on that one. But it's still a heavy favorite for the Thunder and maybe even a buy-in for the Pacers. How do we feel about these price points here? Because it's not 3-1, right? Like, we're sitting here looking at this saying it's okay, 3-2 and home court advantage. Yes, it's with OKC, but the home court of the game is going to be in Indiana. Is there a chance that you can look at that 12-1 price, Joe, and say to yourself, you know what? I'll buy in now because I think the Pacers have a legitimate chance to win without Halliburton in game number 6.
I agree, Donnie. I absolutely think they have a chance not only to win game 6, but we all know what happens in a game 7. Anything is possible in a game 7. At home, if this game was in OKC, I'd be worried. But this game is at home in Indiana. Role players step up at home in the playoffs. I expect the Pacers to do just that here tonight. And we're getting more value now because of the thought that Halliburton might not play.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this, too? Because asking that question, we got the answer. And we were right. Like yesterday, the Thunder, Joe, minus 1,600. The Pacers underdog price, 9-1. Now we take a look at today again, minus 2,500 and 12-1. Is it because we usually don't overreact? Like, Tyrese Halliburton is a really good player. We're not sure if he's going to play. But is that a straight reaction to we don't know if Halliburton's going to play? Because, like, let's just equate it to the NFL, right? Your superstar wide receiver is down, not the quarterback. And it's like, all right, well, the line was 7. It's now 6.5, like barely moves it. That is a massive price increase overnight. And the only news we were getting was an MRI from Halliburton. How do you feel that those lines changed? Was it the Halliburton injury?
You would think.
It's really interesting as it pops up at that point right now, because those massive numbers from minus 2,500 to minus 1,600 just overnight. And we're not even talking about like a week, like, okay, well, that was on Monday and now it's Saturday and a lot more injury information actually took place. That's really not the case at this point. So that's why I think it's fascinating. And it really caught me off guard reading those numbers together. So now as we anticipate and take a look at game number 6, which is not tonight, it will be tomorrow night in Indy. The lines have also moved as well, Joe. -5 is a favorite on the opening number in FanDuel in New Jersey after the previous game ended in game number 5. We're now seeing 6.5. The total, Joe, 224 at the opening number, down to 222.5. Everything moving in an OKC direction.
everything moving in an OKC direction. And the question, Donnie, is what's going to change between now and tip-off? Where's this go if Halliburton's ruled out? Are we getting to 7.5, 8? Could very well be.
So you think it's baked in, though, already? Like, what are you thinking about that? Because we did have the movement yesterday. Like, I guess if you are the novice bettor, right? You're like saying, oh, well, it's probably going to go to 7.5 or 8 if he's out. I don't know if it gets there. Like, I think they're trending the same way we just take a look at those odds at 25, minus 2,500 from minus 1,600. I think they're thinking, Joe, he's not playing tomorrow night.
Yes, but you also know that the public is going to rush the minute that announcement is made, and they are going to just hammer the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it would not shock me if this thing gets pushed up maybe another half a point or so. And it's probably too much because we've also seen guys and teams who lose their star player. What do, Donnie? They elevate their game, especially at home. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, take a look here. Money line on that game here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 255 for the Oklahoma City Thunder to win that game, as high as maybe 260s out there in the marketplace. It's an interesting one, certainly, to try to watch it play out, but we have another day to sort of get that information and gather on Tyrese Halliburton. But we also talked about, I was in shock yesterday, Joe, like, there's no way they got Halliburton odds up here on how many points he's going to score. They had it at 14.5 yesterday. I want to check in to see what it is today. We'll be right back into the early line.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rhythm. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Stanley Cup final. Yeah, it's a final. The Stanley Cup has been awarded last night in 6 games to the Florida Panthers after a 5-1 victory. It saw 4 goals out of Sam Reinhart. Donnie Rightside, Joe Ranieri, and now joining us, Joe Madden, to sort of put that bow on the NHL season here. Joe, how are we feeling today You're Canadian. Canadians don't win the Cup, but Edmonton doesn't win it. Calgary rises up at this point. Hey, mixed morning odds over there for you, huh?
Oh, it definitely is. And especially for the Calgary fans out at the bar last night. I tell you, those bars were rocking with Calgary Flames jerseys. And you would expect everyone to get behind what Canada is trying to promote, that let's get the cup back to Canada. But Calgary Flames fans just did not want any part of that. They were booing the Edmonton Oilers every time they touched the puck in the last couple of games, cheering for the Florida Panthers. So it was quite the sight out there last night at the bars.
Joe, the best, tournament is basically the NHL playoffs. It's fantastic all the way through. We had a lot of excitement there, but the Stanley Cup also, maybe the most iconic trophy in sports. I asked Joe Ranieri this question yesterday because I'll equate it to myself first. Like if the Super Bowls were played in the home arenas or home stadiums, let's just say, I'm an Eagles fan. And that somehow the, Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles fictitiously ended up in the Super Bowl and Dallas won it in Philadelphia. I wouldn't stay for the Lombardi Trophy celebration because it's a cool trophy and I want to see it given out. Let me ask you this as a Canadian here. Like, let's just say Edmonton and Calgary, which we know they can't, wound up in the Stanley Cup final. And Canada won a Stanley Cup, and the cup is coming out. But yet your team, Calgary, lost to Edmonton at home. Do you stay for the Stanley Cup presentation, or are you out of there with, minutes to spare? No way I'm watching this on my home ice.
Donnie, there is no way I'm walking out of that building until they make me walk out of the building. I don't understand why fans leave at any single game. You look at the last game, that one overtime game, Edmonton was able to tie up. Half their fans had already walked out of there. So, and that was it's appalling to see what they do. So I don't know. I can't walk out.
There you go, Joe. The floor is Joe's because he was in the building last night with Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe, take it away.
Yes, feels like up to about 2 hours ago. Let me ask you here, Joe. I mean, it never really felt in doubt watching that. It felt like a closeout game should be, right? It was about as rocking chair as you got. And once again, I think the biggest thing when you look back on this series is that the Oilers were playing, it felt like, from behind every game. And they pretty much were, because the Panthers kept scoring goals in the first period and had the lead right away. It's kind of crazy the way that all unfolded.
Yeah, absolutely. The Edmonton Oilers, playing behind, got caught in that sticky situation where they just didn't want to be there. And you would have expected a lot more out of them in that first period last night. But we saw that effort out of the Florida Panthers doing exactly what they like to do. They love to get up in that first period and then play the style of game where they are just trying to make sure Edmonton doesn't get the puck. They also controlled that neutral zone. They were so heavy with those forecheck Joes. They completely outplayed the Edmonton Oilers. And watching press conferences with Connor McDavid, he basically said, we kept doing the same effing thing out there and banging our heads against the wall. There was no way for them to get anything done versus the Florida Panthers. And after Game 5, we really saw that 5-2 win in Game 5. You guys know I had futures for the Edmonton Oilers, but in 7. But after Game 5, I went so heavy in Game 6 on the Florida Panthers because they just had to finish it there at home in front of their home crowd. So congratulations. I'm so glad you got to be there last night, Joe, to see the hoisting of the trophy. I wish they would have done it in 6 last year. Then I would have been there in Edmonton. But 7 last year, 6 this year. Pretty impressive.
Back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. The focus for me, not necessarily on the Panthers. I mean, they're right in the middle of what a dynasty run should be. 3 straight Stanley Cup final performances here, 2 Stanley Cup champions. Maybe they do it in the future, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I do want to focus here on the Edmonton Oilers. And sometimes, old habits just creep up. You take a look at Stuart Skinner's regular season. 26 wins for him on the season, which was 18th. But a goals against average of 2.81. 31st in the NHL. Save percentage, .896. 35th in the NHL. Did we always know this was going to be a problem for Edmonton once they got to the playoffs, Joe?
Absolutely, Donnie. This has always been the talk of the Edmonton Oilers. They have so much talent. They do have Connor McDavid. They have Leon Draisaitl. Their forward units are fantastic out there. Their defense has improved from last season, and that's why I did think they had a fighting chance this year. But one thing that we always knew to hold true was the goaltending has been an issue for Edmonton, and it hasn't just been an issue in the Skinner days here. This has always been a team that never has enough funds, I do believe, to attract that top goaltender out there, and they need need a goaltender like Bobrovsky, a goaltender that can maintain a .902 save percentage during the playoffs, because otherwise the Edmonton Oilers will face this kind of adversity each and every year, getting to the Stanley Cup finals. As the team does wear down, you see those forwards running out of energy out there. You've got to have that strong goaltender between the pipes. And with Edmonton having to go back and forth between Skinner and Pickard, which I think they should have really started Skinner in game 5, we might have seen them have a little bit more of a stronger game, but they've proven they just don't have the goaltending, and it's always been the question mark for this team coming in. But you have to not knock only goaltending, you have to knock the defense, and the defense needed to give him more support. They needed to get out there. Some of those goals, like that first goal by Reinhart, that defense, I tell you, they let Reinhart break right through, and they didn't provide any resistance.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Joe, when you look at it here. Nobody thought they'd be able to go back-to-back this year. And I'm sorry, but the core of this team is coming back again next year. And they've already proven that they have an opportunity.
The opportunity is going to be there, Joe, for Florida certainly to come back next year. And I believe what he was trying to surmise is, we don't know when this train's going to get off the track, Joe. Like, we're talking about a team with 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, maybe the best team in the NHL, and maybe making it back to another Stanley Cup final. That's hard to do, but optimism is high in South Florida.
Is it too early to throw out the word dynasty? Because, Donnie, I think that is exactly what we are seeing here with the Florida Panthers. A dynasty is being created now. We have a lot of players that could walk this season, but I don't understand why they would move on out there. I think we're going to get the core, like you said, all back here. You want to be on the Florida Panthers if you want to hoist a cup next year, and I do think they have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. We're going to talk more Florida Panthers coming up next, but also I do want to get back to game number 6 here. 5-1 victory for the Florida Panthers. That's all something that you can tell your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. Scoring 4 times in a cup-clinching game, that never happens. It happened last night, and we'll talk about it next.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say, yeah, I buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to talk next year's Stanley Cup odds in just a few moments, but still putting a bow on game number 6, the excitement, the anticipation. Joe Raniero's in the building last night. The Panthers absolutely wiped the floor with the Oilers, but Sam Reinhart did it himself, Joe Madden. 4 goals last night, including an unbelievable, spectacular goal to get the party started last night. You can say to yourself, hey, man, when I dream as a little kid to play in a Stanley Cup final to get 1 goal would be tremendous. To have a game-clinching environment in your own building and scoring 4 times. Talk to me about Reinhardt's performance last night. Outrageous.
Oh, it absolutely was. And I couldn't believe it. When he got that second goal, the thought did go through my mind of going in and jumping in on the Hattie, but never would I have thought that he would not only get the Hattie, but come out with 4 goals in last night's game. He's a very streaky player. We know last season he did lead the league in power play points out there, just firing on net on those power plays. And he got a lot of criticism to start the playoffs here because he did start off slightly slow, but he definitely finished it in a hot way. And Sam Reinhart, definitely someone you want to keep watching next season because he's just that player that comes out every single playoffs. He's so clutch for a team. So I can't believe 4 goals. It's definitely going to be something that is put in the history books.
Crazy.
Can it go back to back to back, Joe, is my question.
Yeah, it can. I think we're getting a three-peat out there on the ice as long as they keep their core players together. The Florida Panthers are just a different team. And you look at the adversity that they play through. Matthew Tkachuk, with all of his injuries out there and the endless players. Now we're going to have question marks on if Brad Marchand will stay around with this team. But I do think he was a key asset picking up at the trade deadline. We saw how impactful he was out there on the ice. And I do think he will want to stay in Florida and not head back to Boston as he'll have another chance of hoisting that cup. I do think they could make history and three-peat there.
Yeah, I remember like growing up in my teenage years, watching the Florida Panthers with the John Van Beesbrook era, where they actually knocked off my Philadelphia Flyers to get to a Stanley Cup. It's like, they're never going to get back there. Like Florida, it doesn't work for hockey. And you take a look at Tampa Bay and Florida, like 2 really good strongholds now in the NHL. As we flip to next year, you see the odds. The Carolina Hurricanes now at a 7-1 price, but right behind them again, the Florida Panthers at plus 750 and the Edmonton Oilers at plus 750. So if we look at those odds and just use the top teams, and I'm going to focus on the teams that just met once again in the Stanley Cup final. If I gave you one of those teams at a price, plus 750 on Florida, plus 750 on Edmonton, if you were to bet one of those teams, who gets back to the Stanley Cup final and why between those two?
Donnie, I would even take Edmonton at Florida at plus 300. I wouldn't touch Edmonton with a 10-foot pole. I'm not even sure if Connor McDavid, he's coming up to his last year of his contract here. I'm not even sure he's going to be out there on the ice. And you look at this Florida Panthers team, as long as they hold on to their core, I do think this team is just built to win the Stanley Cup. Now, they might have a slower season, make it into the playoffs, not have that big push where we saw, the Winnipeg Jets have just that fantastic season. The Florida Panthers, no, they can't go out. They can't play that style of hockey all season long. They love to wear down their opponents, and I do think we have every ability of seeing them get back there. So I take the Florida Panthers at plus 750. I think it's ridiculous that the Carolina Hurricanes are at the top. They're at plus 700. Got to be honest there. They come out of the Metro, so maybe they do have the easiest path. But I look at the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a team that always struggles in the playoffs. I don't see next year being any different with their goaltending and with their lack of ability to really win out there on the road this season. I think those hiccups will roll into next.
Why is there no Calgary Flames on that list, Joe? What's up
You know
with that?
exactly why there's no Calgary Flames on the list. The Calgary Flames in the middle of a rebuild right now, Joe. You can thank us, though, for your Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, the Conn Smythe winner. Sam Bennett, he was with our Calgary Flames. So we love that.
By the way, Joe, let me ask you a question on the Conn Smythe, too, because the question was coming up yesterday, and it depended on maybe who was going to have the bigger game number 6. Like Brad Marchand, who's been absolutely nothing short of spectacular in the Stanley Cup final, and also, again, taking a look at some other guys that might be able to steal it. And I don't mean steal it. The favorite was Sam Bennett. Did you have any thoughts there was a chance maybe Marchand could have won that if he had a big game number 6?
Yeah, I absolutely did. You look at Brad Marchand and how impactful he has been in this series. I know Sam Bennett was more impactful throughout the whole playoffs as a whole, but you look at Brad, and I think if Brad would have been that guy, like if he would have come out like Sam Reinhart and been able to get the opening goal, get the winning goal, I do think there would have been a bit more of a question mark around if he deserved it or Sam Bennett. But I tip my hat to Sam Bennett. Really glad to see he was able to get it. He worked himself so hard for the whole playoffs and during the regular season. Such a great player, such a great teammate out there on the ice. So happy to see.
Stanley Cup loves the state of Florida. And we love Joe Madden right here on the Sports Grid Network. Mark Zinno up next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 2 certainly in full effect. The hot topics continue to roll out here. The Stanley Cup playoffs are done. A championship provided there. The Stanley Cup handed out in South Florida yesterday to the Florida Panthers. A victory for them over Edmonton in 6 games, and away we go. Hockey over the summer. You have the draft. You have training camp. It'll be here back in October before you know it. But the hot topics, as I said, head start the tour here. Major League Baseball. My goodness, Donnie right side here along with Joe Ranieri. Let's bring in Mark Zinno to get our daily update of what we need to know. Mark, how are we feeling out there? Refreshed, ready? Major League Baseball, trades, Yankees can't hit. It's all happening.
I mean, there's a lot to start with. Much to Joe Ranieri's chagrin, I'm really tired of the Florida Panthers winning. I really wish this franchise was lose.
Where's the Thrashers at when you need them?
They're irritating. Brad Marchand continues to just be a nuisance to society for every team in the NHL, but the one that he plays for. And so I'm tired of him winning. I'm tired of the Panthers winning. I really think McDavid needs a cup. Are we going to do this again like with how long Ovechkin needed a cup? Like McDavid's got to wait all these years to get a cup. He should get out of Edmonton.
Get out of Edmonton, head to Philadelphia. I like your style, Mark Zinno. I think we're on the same page with this one. The perfect spot in the city of brotherly love.
Spare us. The last thing we need is Donnie Rightside to have Connor McDavid.
Oh, come on now. Oh, come on. The 97 and orange and black.
A nuclear weapon before I'd want that to happen.
Come on now. You'll see the right side of this argument at this point here. But let's have some fun here. Major League Baseball, Sunday night. It's like, you know what? We got a pretty good baseball game coming up here. Wait a second. San Francisco scratching their pitcher. Why is that? Because Rafael Devers was on the move. Usually, Mark, we hear about these things weeks in advance of the possibility of a trade. Devers traded right out from under us on Sunday night from the Boston Red Sox over to the San Francisco Giants. Your thoughts when you saw Rafael Devers on the move?
Apparently, the 0 for 19 start and them asking him to take a seat is still doing, right? That's what it kind of felt like. It just kind of felt like it was a residual left over from the beginning of the year and the acrimony that started between these two teams. And clearly, the Red Sox are in the habit of dealing high-level players who have big contracts that were cornerstone pieces of their franchise to teams out in California. So it's not like we haven't seen this script before from Boston. But, I mean, objectively, the problem is that the Red Sox didn't get better in the trade in any size, way, shape, or form. I mean, the San Francisco Giants got objectively one of the 15 best hitters in all of Major League Baseball, and the Boston Red Sox in return got not one of the other 14 best hitters in Major League Baseball. So you didn't get better, and that's a problem. I mean, look, as a Yankee fan, I'm happy to see Devers go because he absolutely owned the Yankees for years and destroyed Yankee pitching across the board. But this wasn't a move that Boston said, hey, we're in all-in mode right now. They sold off salary, and they're looking younger, and I don't know that they recover. And I would tell you this much, bet a lot of Boston team total unders until further notice.
Will it matter, though, Mark, is the question for the Giants. Is anybody catching the Dodgers? Kudos to finally getting a franchise player, but is it going to matter in the long run?
Well, look, I mean, there's a difference between will it matter in the playoffs and will it matter overall. The gap between the Dodgers and the Giants and the Padres and the D-backs is not as big as odds makers want you to believe. You see those numbers right there? The gap from a playing standpoint in the regular season is nowhere near that big. That's ridiculous to go from that price to the other one with 2.5 games or 3.5 games separating two teams. That's insane, right? Like those numbers are just not accurate. So, yeah, is there value on taking the Giants, Padres, or whoever to try and steal the division? Sure there is. I think absolutely there is. What does it mean for October? That's a different conversation because the Dodgers are loaded for bear in October, and they have everything you need in October, depth and pitching and starting pitching, relief and bullpen. They can hit, and they have all those things. So getting through the MLB playoffs is a different conversation when you talk about the gap between these teams and what they actually are during the regular season. San Francisco could steal this division. There's a world where they can. I don't think that they will, but I certainly don't think those numbers are reflective about how close the teams are.
And I think your point is valid here. The Giants did get better from this move. Got one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball and just some players, per se, going back to Boston, which seems like it was a salary dump. Like, oh, no, we're not sure we spent money well here. Let's at least make sure we get out from under it. But the question to me is, like, that's not really the way Boston should operate. Like, the Dodgers shouldn't operate like that. The Yankees shouldn't operate like that. And neither should the Boston Red Sox. The reason I bring them up in that order is Forbes magazine, Mark, third most valuable franchise in the majors is the Boston Red Sox. They should never be in a mode like, oh, we can't afford Mookie Betts or we can't afford a Xander Bogaerts. And boy, maybe we paid Rafael Devers too much and we don't want to pay that price tag out here. What's the future of the Boston Red Sox? Is it, hey, we have some young players coming up, we want them to play, but they should be operating the same as the big boys in Major League Baseball, which means you're supposed to add talent at every position and still have to stockpile those draft picks that you can bring up to the Major League Baseball level. What's Boston doing is what I'm asking.
Well, they're doing the same thing the Yankees are doing. There's really only one team operating in that mode, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. DRS, the Yankees are on a budget and have been for a couple of years now, right? Like, here's the problem, and this is what has happened in Major League Baseball more than any other sport. Guess what? The balance sheet overtakes the standings, and the balance sheet says that we got a lot of money coming in. I want to keep costs down. So if I do that and money still comes in, guess what? I don't need to alter my behavior because the money keeps rolling in. The Yankees are doing the same exact thing. Only the Dodgers are in big middle finger, bleep you, I don't care. I'm going to spend the Guggenheim kind of money on this whole thing and win it every single year. The Yankees are not in that mode. The Yankees are a business. They're not a baseball team that wants to win anymore. They are a business, a high-functioning $5-8 billion business that prints money ad nauseum. Doesn't matter if they win a World Series. Nope, because guess what? The money machine keeps rolling, and it's the same thing in Boston. It does not matter. When you have a franchise valued at that and people continue to buy tickets, they continue to buy merchandise, there's still TV deals, there's still advertising. All those things are still in place. It doesn't matter whether you win. And if I can keep costs down in the process of doing that, guess what? I'm making a ton of money. When you become a business more than a baseball team, you have given up winning first, and money comes first, and winning is second. And the Dodgers are the only team playing their individual game, which is why the gap is so much bigger than them and everybody else.
And it's amazing that we're just.
Yeah, it's interesting that you point out, because you take a look at the way these teams are operate, which include the New York Yankees, and also the questions. We'll get to that in some of the standings moving forward. But from a Giants perspective also, do we expect any more additions with Buster Posey this season? Because you get Devers, that's a big one here. They know they want to chase down the Dodgers. Do we expect more by the trade deadline out of the Giants?
I mean, if you're going to go half in, you may as well go all in, right?
Yep.
That's the mentality of the whole thing. I would think that they would. They certainly have arms that other people want if there's more bats that they want to get. And oh, by the way, I'll add one more. Excuse me, I'll add one more team to your. The Mets spend like the Dodgers do, right? The problem is they don't win. Like, that's the issue. Like they're the Mets, and they haven't been able to figure it out in October. But again, they were in the National League Championship Series last year. But the Mets are in. I don't care how much I have to spend. I'm willing to win, to do everything I need to do to win a game, or win a World Series, rather, for that matter. But the Giants are an interesting case here because they can't catch the Dodgers' spending habits, right? They're just not built that way at this point in time. Can they be shrewd and try to acquire and look, a la the Braves in 2021, make some deadline moves that spark you to a World Series? Yes, and I think they can, and I think they should. If you're going to get a guy like Devers, sure, it's for the long term, but in the short term, maximize it as much as you can in the next 2 to 3 year window and try to overtake Los Angeles.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it play out, but the Devers fallout basically with two franchises. You take a look at the San Francisco Giants to make the playoffs now today at a minus 162 price, and then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox to make the playoffs today. It's a plus 190 price. Red Sox got beat yesterday. Same thing with the San Francisco Giants. Those numbers change slightly overnight as is, but it'll be fun to see what the Giants do and try to get into that track meet where there's a lot of superstar talent out there in the NL West. Let's talk NL West and much more next. Mark Zinno's with us right here on the Early Line.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. things both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
A little bit of breathing room there out on the West Coast here for the Los Angeles Dodgers. A win streak for the Dodgers coincided with a couple losing streaks out there, certainly shaking up the standings where it looked like there could be a chance that the Dodgers would be knocked out of first place. Not the case here, Mark Zinno. The Dodgers, after picking up another victory against the Padres yesterday, improved to 45-29. 3.5 games clear of the San Francisco Giants, 5 games clear of the San Diego Padres, and 8 games clear of the Diamondbacks. Those 3 teams I just mentioned, the Giants, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks, have at least lost at least 2 to 3 games and on the losing streak. And again, the Colorado Rockies winners the 3 in a row. Doesn't matter. They're 28.5 games back. So I always like to say, Mark, the cream does rise to the top. We were never frustrated with the Dodgers per se as, oh no, they might be out of first place. But now it looks like they're widening that lead. And that's what they do. They're talented. How do you think the NL plays out? And again, do you think that the San Francisco Giants could be a player to knock the Dodgers out and actually win the NL West?
I mean, look, I don't know that they can. For me to say they can't catch the Dodgers 3.5 games behind as we sit here in the middle of June is silly. Of course they can. I mean, could things go wrong for the Dodgers? Could a couple of more injuries hit them? Could Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell not come back and be effective and they continue to struggle in the starting pitch department? Sure. All those things could happen. But the Giants have to have a much bigger push on offense, I think, to be able to catch them, because it's not about necessarily the head-to-head matchups with the Dodgers. It's about how you handle the other 80% of the games that you're in. And are you that much better than the rest of those teams? And so, you know, the Dodgers preseason win total of 106.5 wins, whatever it was, 108 wins, they're not getting there.
Yeah.
Just not. That's not happening. So they'll win 100 games. They'll win 100 plus. It's not going to be, you know, anything that's utterly, you know, all that shocking for them to win 100 games. But the Giants should start looking at ways to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, because ultimately that's the goal, right? And so, as we talked about before, how much of a different animal the Dodgers can be in the postseason. That's where you need Devers to show up. That's where you need other guys to show up. But them winning the division, again, I don't think it'll happen, but it's certainly not impossible. And I wouldn't lay minus 1350. I'd probably take a flyer on the Padres or Giants here with a couple of shekels for some pizza money to try to get a big payout if the Dodgers slip up.
Yeah, look at the Giants, too, because you're right about that. Like, we always talk about, oh, you got to have that starting pitching. Like, some days you're just going to have to out-hit the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that's what happens. We'll see if they can do that nice addition there, obviously, with Rafael Devers. Let's flip it over and keep it in the National League, but go to the NL East. Mets, Phillies, Braves, Nationals, and the Marlins in that division. The New York Mets, who are riding high and mighty here, Mark. Now losers of 4 straight games. Chris Sale back on the mound today for the Atlanta Braves. It could leak to 5 games. The Phillies got beat last night in Miami. And then the Atlanta Braves, who now sit 12 games back, which is still a ton. But as I like to say is, if you're going to make a charge to try to get back into the race, it's got to start somewhere, and a nice comeback victory for the Braves against the New York Mets. Let's talk Mets first, though. Your feelings on the Mets this season, a little bit of a slump. Worried or no for them?
Not worried. Again, the Mets will be in the playoffs, and I don't think the Mets care, and I don't think the Mets fans care necessarily about winning division. Sure, they want to, but this is a team that is built for October, and they're built to win in the playoffs, and that's why they got Juan Soto, because playoff Juan Soto is the greatest playoff baseball player of my generation after Derek Jeter, and that's, you know, just it's unreal how big he comes up in the postseason. So I look at them, and I'm not worried about the Mets. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't think the Phillies have enough pitching to catch the Mets and take over the division. Ultimately, when you start to get through August and September, I think the Mets have more in their arsenal, more arms, and certainly a better bullpen than the Phillies do. And that should be enough. And look, the Mets are scoring runs. Even in Citi Field, they're scoring runs. So they'll mash their way to a division title, and then they need to show up in October.
What about your Braves? Where's that team been exactly? And what's the outlook moving forward?
I can't understand for the life of me the way odds makers still price the Braves like they're a competitive baseball team.
Crazy.
Last night, the Braves, I think, were like a 145 favorite against the Mets, who were in first place, which is insane. Now, I get that the Mets bullpen blew it and the Braves won the game anyway, but that's an insane number to put the Braves, who, again, aren't hitting. Their bullpen is terrible. Their closer is shot. And you're just because of the starting pitcher, you're pricing them $1.50 favorite. Come on, like that's nuts. Like I don't know why the value in the Braves is still so high in odds makers' eyes. It shouldn't be, but I would take advantage of it. This team is not making the playoffs. They do not have enough of everything. This is a lineup that doesn't hit outside of Ronald Acuna. And again, you lost one of your top starters to Tommy John surgery and Adrian Smith-Salver. Again, Chris Sale may be traded if this thing starts to really get bad come August or come late July over the course of the next month. But he's the one tradable commodity that they have. And if they can get a big enough haul for him, I'm sure Alex Anthopoulos will pull the deal. So somebody might come calling for him. And if they do that, they've punted on the season. So I don't think this team has any chance to win the division at all. And they'd be lucky to get the 7th wild card.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, too, because it's still a long way to go. It's a really good front office, and maybe you get a couple games, but you can't dig that hole this much. Like, oh, the Braves are only 3.5 games back. They'll be fine. Another 12 games back to the Mets here. Certainly making and climbing over those teams is going to be tough to do. But if we do take a look at the baseball picture in the National League, the pennant odds, Dodgers are always going to be the favorite regardless. They're a plus 130 price, much, much higher than the Mets at a plus 430, followed in evenly by the Cubs at 7-1 and the Philadelphia Phillies at 7-1. Outside of the Dodgers here, is it the Mets? Is it the Cubs? Is it the Phillies that chase down the Dodgers for you, Mark? Or maybe a team that might be able to catch some lightning in a bottle down the list?
It's got to be the Mets. Look, I don't even think the Cubs and the Phillies are accurately priced here when it comes to when you're looking at the pennant odds. Both of those teams have some serious holes. Look, and the Cubs, that's a great hitting team. Their pitching leaves a lot to be desired. And if they played in a different division, I think their record looks dynamically different, right? Part of the reason why those numbers are where they are is because the Cubs are leading the NL Central and they get to play the Pirates and the Reds and, these mediocre teams that are not all that great a whole bunch. So I don't think the Cubs are that good. I would probably put the Padres and the Giants ahead of both the Cubs and the Phillies.
See what happens in the National League. Big game series tonight once again down there in Atlanta. Can the Braves start the charge up, or can the Mets come back with a victory tonight? Chris Sale will be a big factor in that. Let's talk Yankees. When is the swoon over? When are the base hits going to start up? We'll talk with Mark Zinno next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things the both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Getting over the hump, that's what Wednesday's for. Sets you up for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. One thing we're hoping for is maybe the Yankees can get over the hump as well. And how about scoring a run? Stoney writes out, it's Joe Ranieri and Mark Zinno back with us for another segment, talking Yankees baseball. If we date this back to a victory over the Kansas City Royals in the final game of that series, 1-0 they won. Congratulations. The very next night, they scored 1 run and lost. Then they exploded, Mark, for 3 runs, but still lost to the Boston Red Sox 4-3. Shut out against the Sox, shut out against the Angels, shut out against the Angels again. And we're not talking about going up against some of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. 0-5, 4 runs scored, 13 runs allowed. What's the deal, Mark Zinno, with the New York Yankees?
It's the same deal it's always been walking into this season. Look, 2 years ago, the lineup was Aaron Judge and 8 jabronis. Last year, it was Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and 7 jabronis. Now we're back to Aaron Judge and 8 jabronis. And part of the jabronis that they paid money to, and Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger, are just jabronis. Paul Goldschmidt's batting $170 in the month of June. Cody Bellinger is batting $226. I mean, these guys aren't producing runs. And if Aaron Judge isn't the guy producing runs and driving in runs and helping his team, guess what? They're not going to score. Can you get mad at Aaron Judge? Sure, I think that's a wasted effort. I mean, the guy is putting on already one of the most iconic seasons of all time. He can't do it every single game. Baseball just doesn't allow you to do it. So the simple point here is that, once again, you're looking at a flawed roster with a piss-poor manager who has no idea what to do with the bullpen, who should have been fired several years ago. But here we are. As I said earlier, the Yankees are a business, and the business continues to print money, win, lose, or draw. So everything is going to stay status quo, and they do not care about winning a World Series.
The problem, too, Mark, is that the pitching is actually delivering. They've only given up 13 runs in the last 5 games. Like, what is going? And that was the thing we all thought the Yankees would have the biggest problem with, didn't it?
I mean, look, when Will Warren only gives up 4 runs, you should fall to your knees and sing hallelujah, because he is not a major league starter. And somehow the Yankees keep giving this dude a pass and let him trot out there every 5th day and hand him a baseball and go, hey, would you like to try to pitch in the majors today? And Will Warren goes, yeah, I would. And then he watches his neck spin back and forth as balls go flying over his head nonstop. But yet somehow he only gave up 4 runs last night, and you got diced by Kyle Hendricks, who 1 might be 74 years old, who 2 struck you out 9 times, and 3 is one of the worst FIP pitchers in all of baseball in field and independent pitching. In fact, the Angels have 3 starters who are bottom 5 in field and independent pitching, and the Yankees just got aced by one of them last night.
Yeah, they need to bounce back in the biggest way, which means, hey, score 2 runs to get some good vibes back there in the Bronx. But you are getting pitchers that serve up a lot of fly balls and not a lot of strikeouts. You need to take advantage of that sooner or later. And if they do, that means there's a chance that they can win the AL pennant, which is still the favorite at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Mark. The New York Yankees at a plus 210 price, followed by the Detroit Tigers, Houston Astros, Tampa Bay Rays, and Mariners. It's not a deep field in the AL. And yes, I do still think the Yankees are the best team here, but sometimes you run through these struggles and changes have to be made. Giancarlo Stanton comes back, gets a couple base knocks, hasn't equated the runs at this point. Are we worried about the Yankees? And or do you say, no, they should be the favorites in the AL, and rightfully so right now?
Well, they're the favorites in the AL because of the Yankees. If you put that team with a different logo, they might not be the favorites, and the Tigers would be. Look, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, DRS, right? When I told you that the gap between the Yankees and Tigers wasn't as big as that, and I would absolutely take the Tigers to win the pennant here. In fact, I'd even lay a little shekel on the Astros because they're the Astros and they're about as annoying as the Florida Panthers. So they never seem to go away, and they'll always be there in the conversation at the end. But nonetheless, again, the Yankees at that price draws no interest from me whatsoever. There's a lot more pitfalls for them to lose the pennant than there are pathways for them to win it. And Detroit certainly has better pitching. Offense is pretty comparable given the current state of the Yankees. So I'd continue to watch these numbers flux here a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Detroit at some point be an equal or co-favorite or somewhat close to it when it comes to the American League pennant.
So here's the question of the night. The New York Yankees are minus 225 favorites here at the FanDuel Sportsbook with a 9.5 total, which means, Mark, you should get a blowout, easy victory where the Yanks are plating 6+ runs tonight. Does it happen in the Bronx?
No, you got to lay the 1.5. Even though it's with the home team, you only lay one because you can't trust to score 6, right? Like the Angels can't lefties, so Yarbrough should keep them at bay. And if you're going to do anything, probably just a half run in the first 5, but you don't want to take the bullpen out of it.
Full Major League Baseball card tonight. Certainly coming up. We'll preview that here in hour number 3. But Mark Zinno bringing the heat with the New York Yankees. Boots on the ground down there in Atlanta. He does it all at the SportsGrid Network. Mark, thanks for joining us here on a Wednesday. More hot topics to come next.